Welcome, everyone. I'm Mike Sha today.
And I'm Ashley Ward.
And you're listening to the What Matters podcast, and our mission
to spotlight top RIAs, wealth managers, and investment professionals who are redefining wealth management.
Join us as we dive into their journeys, strategies, and insights.
Whether you're an investor or an inspiring pro, this is for you.
Get ready for impactful conversations on the What Matters podcast. Hey, everyone, and welcome back to another exciting episode of the What Matters podcast. I'm your host, Mike Sha today. Today, we have a special guest joining us, Michael Sha, the co-founder and CEO of SigFig, a leading digital wealth management solutions provider.
Great. Thanks for having me. It's great to be here. I grew up on the East Coast in the Philly suburbs, and my parents were first-generation immigrants. They came to the States for grad school. And I guess part of my origin story starts from the fact that, one, they started a company together. So I kind of grew up in an entrepreneurial household. Two, my mom was like a really passionate and self-directed investor. So she was like really into investing and is to this day. And so she kind of spread the bug to me. And then three, I went to school during the first dot-com boom. So, it felt like everybody was starting companies from their dorm rooms. And I think the combination of those three things led me to just always know that like I wanted to start something. Now I took a little bit of a detour and went to Amazon at the beginning of the 2000s, which was an incredible place. I mean, amazing company, learned so much, worked with such talented people. And I think more than anything, some of the things that I learned there that probably led to SigFig was the fact that, one, I think the company always thought that like technology and the power of technology was like really central to who they were. And that sounds kind of obvious, but in fact, most of Wall Street thought of Amazon as like an e-commerce company, like a company that kind of sold products. When in fact, I think it was really a technology company at the core. And I think, the other thing that I learned there was just total obsession around the customer. If you can kind of solve interesting problems for the customer, delight them with great experiences, a lot of things kind of come out of that. And so, when it came time to, jumping away from Amazon and starting my own thing, I kind of put all those things together, passion around investments, passion around technology, and passion around, delighting customers. And that kind of became the beginning of SigFig. Now, we've been around for 17 years. And so, our product and our company and our strategy has evolved a lot over the years. But I think through it all, those themes have always stayed constant and, are true to this day.
What kind of company did your parents have, by the way?
They, it's funny. I don't know if they'll appreciate me telling the story, but I think my dad was the one who really wanted to start something. And he told my mom that either he was going to start a record store or a company in the technology space. And I think my mom was like, yeah, there's only one of those that is going to fly. So just passion for music aside. And they actually started a company in the technology space in, I guess, the 80s.
Wow.
Yeah. So they were a little bit early on that. And there are actually some odd, unintentional parallels to kind of SigFig's story. But they started out actually in retail reselling. So they actually had like a store, like back before the internet. You would go to like a store to buy like, technology stuff. At the time it was like, massive size computers and, stuff like that. But they, over the kind of first few years of the company's life, they quickly pivoted to B2B and actually sold technology to large corporations. And found that, serving corporations was like a more scalable, more interesting business than selling to retail. And interestingly with SigFig, we also started kind of B2C and then kind of evolved to really a much more of a B2B focus as well.
And so tell us a little bit about SigFig. Are you guys just a technology-based company or are there other sister companies or facets to the organization?
Yeah, so our firm is definitely first and foremost a software company. We build software and we partner with third-party institutions that have a lot of scale. So most of those are, banks and wealth management firms that, have a lot of investment business and a lot of financial advisors. Now, even though we think of ourselves as a software company, because much of our software actually does more than manage the digital experiences, like our software can manage assets, portfolios, things like that. We also are registered as an SEC registered investment advisor, so that we can kind of operate, within the regulatory guidelines of the U.S. And so we do have a subsidiary that's an RIA as well.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Because I thought that I had read that. Do you guys, if you don't mind me asking, what's the size of that AUM there at that RIA?
Yeah, we as a platform, I think the latest stat for our firm as a whole is a little over 50 billion in assets, and it's nice scale. I think we serve now about 6,000 financial advisors and about 1.5 million end consumers.
Oh, wow. So you're saying SigFig, manages SigFig, the technology manages about 50 billion in assets.
That's right.
Wow. And about how many advisors did you say there?
A little over 6,000.
And so let me ask you this: where it says that that you guys, I guess it was your subsidiary, there's about 2.5 billion in AUM. Was that's part of your guys' firm as well?
Yeah. So we operate a consumer business, sigfig.com, where an end consumer can actually sign up for our services. And the reason we actually operate that business is because part of, I guess what I learned from my Amazon days is speed and iteration. Like a lot of people have an idea and they think it's going to be amazing, and it turns out it's a terrible idea. So it turns out most people's ideas are terrible, but by iterating and evolving on those ideas, listening to customers, you can iterate your way to great products. And so, we work with a lot of big financial institutions, UBS, Wells Fargo, Citizens, Scotiabank. And, I think we all have experienced operating in highly regulated industries. And one of the benefits of that is, consumer safety and consumer protection. But one of the drawbacks of a highly regulated industry is being less, I'd say, able to kind of iterate quickly. And so we think of our consumer business as a really good place to test and learn, where we can try new features, launch new products, iterate. And, like I said before, like as much as we think every single idea we have is going to be amazing, it turns out some of them are great and some of them are not. And because we can iterate and learn in our consumer business, we can then take all the things that work really well and deploy that across our entire enterprise platform. So, it's kind of like a laboratory of sorts if you think about, how great products are made.
Gotcha. So you're saying that for lack of better words, you guys kind of use your own RIA as the guinea pig for anything that you guys want to launch before it goes to the public?
Yeah, not always. I mean, we work with some really forward-thinking institutions. So, thankfully, many of them are excited to launch new capabilities. So we don't always launch within our consumer business first only. But it is a nice place to be able to kind of test and learn. Like when we deploy software with our partners, usually at most we're deploying new versions every month. But on SigFig, we can deploy software as frequently as we want, because
Wow.
we kind of own and operate that environment. And so that's great. Speed of learning and speed of iteration, helps you get to a better product faster.
And how many, let's say total teammates do you guys have at the organization now?
We're, I think, about 130 spread across the world.
Oh, wow. So you guys are in multiple countries?
Yeah. We have presence in the US, Canada, Singapore, India. We've got quite a few different locations.
And are you guys, really? So you guys are really not just, leveraging your technology to financial institutions in America. You guys are casting a pretty wide net there.
Yeah, so we are global more for being able to tap into great talent pools everywhere. So where we have physical presence or people on our teams isn't directly correlated with where we have go-to-market functions.
Hmm.
But yeah, we are serving financial institutions in both the U.S. and Canada today.
Oh, that's really cool. And so when it came about for you guys to bring on an RIA, was that something you guys had built organically, or was some sort of a merger or acquisition that had taken place there?
No, we built it from scratch.
Wow,
Yeah.
wow. So obviously, I mean, you wear a lot of hats with with SigFig. Does the RIA have a separate CEO or president there that runs that?
Yeah. So I think the way we think of our RIA again is as a kind of testing ground and laboratory. So we operate it more from like a product perspective than from a
Gotcha.
business and revenue perspective. Now, obviously, as a registered entity, we have to have a chief compliance officer, and we have to do our filings and all of that stuff. So there's definitely a meaningful amount of overhead in operating that. But we don't think of it as like a separate business where we want to like invest and grow that business in a very strategic way. Like we really think of it as a place to give us the best shot possible of building the best solutions possible. And so it's much more for us a product development environment, a laboratory to be able to iterate technology quickly. And of course, part of the nature of software is the world's always changing, right? And so
Mhm.
the more you're able to adapt to that change, I think the more you're able to be successful. And that is honestly sometimes why I think we get selected as a provider, is because sometimes financial institutions are not able to invest as heavily or be as nimble when it comes to technology. There's so many core systems to manage, so many legacy platforms that they have to make sure are compliant and secure, that the vast majority of the dollars that most financial institutions spend on software is kind of a lot of expense trying to kind of keep the lights on.
Right.
Whereas we really focus on next generation capabilities, things that are what the average advisor or the average client will want over the next decade, as opposed to, keeping and maintaining systems of the last few decades.
Really cool. So you guys are very forward thinking in your approach there.
Yeah.
Yeah. So if you're if you're a an RIA or a bank, or what would make somebody say, what, I want this technology, SigFix technology, over one of your competitors?
Yeah. So I think, again, it comes back to the actual products that we've created. So some of our capabilities have more direct competitors, but many of them don't. So maybe I can give you a quick sense of like, what do we do
Hmm.
for our partners, and what kinds of solutions do we have. Where we started our enterprise journey was a platform that we call Digital Wealth. And the way I like to kind of talk about digital wealth is, every financial institution out there is using some amount of technology in their wealth business. It varies a lot. There's a lot of like doing business very traditional ways, but I can't think of a single firm out there of any meaningful scale that's not adopting technology in some form or fashion. And in the space that we operate, a lot of people basically think of us as like a next generation TAMP. And I sometimes agree with that framing, but sometimes I disagree, because a lot of times when people think of a TAMP, they think of the asset management elements of what a TAMP does, right? The trading, the portfolio management. Like if you look at all the TAMPs out there, their DNA as a company, their core competency as a company is built around software that manages portfolios. And the interesting thing about what we do is, our view is that while investment management and portfolio management is absolutely central to the value proposition of a financial advisor, in 2024, the value prop of a financial advisor is actually much more multifaceted. Most people are hiring financial advisors to do more than just manage portfolios. They're hiring
Right.
them for guidance, for financial planning, for peace of mind, for tax efficiency. They're using wealth managers as a very multifaceted, kind of provider. And the problem with most of the asset management platforms of yesterday are that they focus singularly on portfolio management. And so what we've done is we've built a very integrated suite of capabilities that represent what an investment manager or financial advisor needs to be really compelling to their clients tomorrow. And that covers everything from portfolio management to financial planning to account opening and onboarding to tools that enable conversation and collaboration with clients, like all the various different things that, advisors do to add value. We're trying to bring all of that together in a very integrated experience. And so that was kind of where we started. That's what, a lot of our partners, use our platform for. But then over the last kind of 4 or 5 years, we started from that early node and really built out a whole kind of suite of different capabilities. So we've got a capability called Engage that's designed to help facilitate better and more effective meetings between financial advisors and their clients. That product actually has a pretty interesting origin story. We conceived of the product in the early days of the pandemic when the whole world basically went virtual,
Right.
So we kind of saw that as like a transformational moment in the comfort of both clients and advisors to not necessarily always have to do business in person.
Right.
And then we built out a capability called Growth Machine. That's a whole suite of different technologies designed singularly to help focus the advisor's ability to gather assets and help increase their wallet share and increase their their kind of AUM flow. And so we've got a whole variety of different capabilities that are all designed to help advisors be more effective and more efficient in how they serve their clients.
Really cool. I like that. And so would you say that, when you utilize a term saying that you guys are viewed as a next level TAM, can you elaborate on that a little bit more?
Yeah. So I think when you look at the tech stack of a typical investment advisor, there's a variety of different pieces to how software can help them manage their experience better. So I think if I break that into pillars, one pillar is, of course, portfolio and investment management, right? Like that is a central part of what a financial advisor does for a client is manage their investment portfolio.
Mm-hmm.
Two is some set of value propositions around advice, guidance, financial planning, essentially helping clients make the right decisions and helping them achieve their goals. Three, there's usually some amount of technology that's needed to facilitate the actual process of becoming a customer, account opening, onboarding, getting all the paperwork signed, getting the assets transferred, like all of that flow and process. It's really unfortunate because financial advisors are really good at convincing clients to become customers, but sometimes the technology of the firms that they work for make it like really difficult to actually get an account opened and funded.
Right.
So, I can't tell you the number of financial advisors I've met where their number one complaint is like, oh God, the institution I work for, there's so much paperwork. It's so manual. I got to like do things over and over. It takes so much of my time to do all this work. And, it turns out technology is your friend, like technology can help make all of that easier. Four, client communication and collaboration. So, when you are a financial advisor, you serve clients and you need to interact with them. And so like all of those things are capabilities that our platform essentially helps facilitate for a financial advisor. So, if you are an advisor and you have a book of business and you want to grow your book of business, you would use our technology stack to kind of do all of that. And then the last piece, which I think is somewhat implied by what we do, when we call it digital wealth, is as customers, 30 years ago, you hire an advisor, you talk to them once a year, twice a year, 3 times a year. That's the extent of the client experience. But today, we obviously all live in the digital age. We've got 1,000 apps on our phones. We're in our phones all day. And clients expect to be able to see their portfolio, see how they're doing, request money to be transferred or withdrawal, all the day-to-day transactional needs of having an investment account. you expect to be able to do that through a great digital experience. And so we power that digital experience, not just for the end consumer, but also for the financial advisor as well, to facilitate, a more modern experience. And that's important because, a lot of the advisors that we serve, they may not have the resources to be able to like build out, their own technology experience. So they're leveraging partners like us to do that.
Right. Because it could be very expensive, right? So
Yeah. Yeah. So
and
actually, if you think about what we do, we're actually much less of a TAMP. We're much more of like a modern end-to-end platform for managing relationships in the wealth industry. So, we're like a little bit TAMP, a little bit CRM, a little bit digital experience, a little bit onboarding technology, a little bit financial planning, like we're kind of elements of all of that all in one.
so do you think in the next 5 to 10 years that SigFig could be an alternative to partnering with, a Focus or a Hightower? Um,
No, actually, I think we're complementary to those firms.
Gotcha.
Yeah. So when I think about the RIA roll-ups, I think they bring a ton of value to RIAs. There's so much overhead in managing, an RIA. You've got to have all the regulatory stuff. You got to have all the books and records. You got to have a investment chassis, all of that stuff. So we're not at all competitive to firms like Hightower and Focus. In fact, those firms could be customers of ours because they too are trying to provide a better platform for the client. We would just be the technology part of that platform, right? Like we would help those firms kind of modernize the elegance of the technology that their advisors are using.
Gotcha. Oh, that's really cool. Yeah, I like that too. And do you guys think that there will be AI components to SigFig?
We don't just think, we already have them. How could you have a conversation in 2024 without AI coming up?
Right.
We're huge believers that AI will be incredibly transformative in our industry. Now, there are a lot of opinions out there on what that means, kind of like where is AI going to be the most powerful? And our view so far has been the very first and most impactful place to focus, our AI capabilities are actually AI that supports financial advisors. So, going back to, the work of financial advisors, I came from Amazon as we kind of started out with. So I wasn't, a financial advisor by training in the early parts of my career. And so I got, essentially a front row seat to seeing, how advisors work and how the firms that they work for, provide, the infrastructure to help make advisors effective. And it was just so jaw-dropping how much work is done in a very manual way as a financial advisor.
Mm-hmm.
And it's unfortunate because, I think what financial advisors are best at is spending time with clients.
Right.
Like that's where I think advisors really shine is, helping to provide value to clients, providing comfort and guidance, giving clients peace of mind that their money is being taken care of. And if they could spend less time faxing paperwork and filling out forms and doing all the things that today have to be done manually, they would have so much more time to spend with clients, adding value to clients. And so I think that's a big part of where at least the early phases of AI's rollout in wealth management, I think will have the biggest impact is AI that helps support the day-to-day work of an advisor so that they're spending less time on the things that are kind of administrative and more time spending, time with clients and, actually adding value. And sometimes, by the way, that's saving the advisor time, but it's also sometimes helping to save their team's time, the CSA or the analyst or, all the support staff that helps make financial advisors successful.
Real cool. And so, what do you see in the future for SigFig 5-10 years out from now?
Well, if there's one thing I've learned over the 2 decades that we've been around is, things are always changing. So I think our view is that what makes what we do interesting is that, the world is changing and that gives, firms like us the opportunity to kind of stay on the cutting edge. So I'm sure that in the next 5 or 10 years, we will continue to build out more and more solutions and capabilities. We'll also continue to just add a lot of scale. So adding lots more firms, lots more advisors, that's a big part of, what we're up to. And that brings a lot of satisfaction to our teams because, I think our view is almost every firm out there could benefit from better technology, and that technology can help make life better for the client and the advisor. And so
Right.
the more people we can get our technology in the hands of, the better. For now, we'll stay focused in some of the geographies that we already serve. But this is a global phenomenon. There's not a country in the world where, if you have an investment industry, technology is not going to help make that, value proposition stronger over the next decade. So I think that's part of the joy of being in the technology space is, things never stop changing, and there's always kind of new ideas, new opportunities to go after. And I think our hope is to continue building the best technology capabilities for the industry.
Well, thank you. I really appreciate that. And with that, being said, there, I know that that was the last question that I had, and I really appreciate you taking the time with us today. And I myself don't know much about technology, but you explained it in a way that was very transparent to me. So I really appreciate that. We really appreciate having you on our show today.
All right. Well, it's been great to be here, and would love to find ways to help the folks in your audience modernize the way they serve their clients.
Thank you. And again, thank you so much, Michael, for joining us today and sharing your personal insights into the world of fintech and wealth management. It's been a pleasure having you on our show. And to our listeners, stay tuned for our next podcasts, and we'll look forward to sharing more insights on wealth management and leaders of the industry. We appreciate that. Thank you.